During today's sessions of the campfires, we started with a strategy. We saw how can we approach in developing our next cloud journey, what are the best steps and what we need to focus. Then we went through to the end of this cloud journey, let's call it the end of the cloud journey, the adoption of all of those tools for the end users, how to adopt it, how to effectively adopt the technology without any breaches and without any problems. Mario showed us the multi-cloud management of that environment, but with this extreme and fast pace of change in these complex IT environments, we need also to focus on the multi-cloud security, on defining the security posture across the overall IT environment. Nevertheless, if we talk about the Azure, AWS, or GCP, and this is the next topic of our campfire. This campfire will be presented by Ilya and Dinko, our experts from SPAN Group. They will show you what is the best possible approach and what do you need to focus when defining and developing security posture across the multi-cloud. Because we finished early with the multi-cloud management, I would leave these 5 minutes so you can go refreshing yourself up, go surf the web and join us in the 5 minutes. So we will start with the next campfire in the case somebody that is designated for this campfire and had the willing to register will wait for them. Join us in 5 minutes and we will start with Ilya's and Dinko's presentation.
It is now exactly 30 minutes past the hour, and I hope that everyone can hear me. It's time that we start with another session. Please nod if you can hear me.
Yes, Dinko, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining another campfire session. In this session, we will talk about security in cloud and multi-cloud environments. My name is Dinko Fabrični, and together with me, we have Ilya Ranogajec, and we will be your hosts for the session. So to better understand why the topic of security in cloud is important, we need to do quick fact-checking. More and more organizations around the world are shifting from being mostly on-premises to mostly cloud. Currently, almost half of the organizations have mostly cloud environments. Out of those, more than half of organizations are using more than one cloud. As cloud adoption grows, securing these environments is becoming more challenging. So with this, in the 2020 report, the state of cloud security, it says that almost 3/4 of organizations hosting data or workloads in the cloud experienced a security incident in the last year. And we also see that multi-cloud organizations have reported more security incidents in the last 12 months. So this means that the role of security in just about every organization in the world is becoming more central and more critical to business outcome than it ever was. So why is it so difficult to secure the cloud environments? Security in IT is based on well-known concepts that are applied to all IT environments, regardless if it's a cloud environment or if it's a traditional data center. But not so long ago, securing the environment was, well, not easy, but a lot easier. You knew exactly where your application was. You would deploy a firewall in your data centers. You would install patches, deploy anti-malware, and you would move on to your next project. But today, applications don't exist in one environment anymore. They sprawl across different VMs, containers, across different data centers or even different regions. It's now common that applications can be stretched across on-prem environments and cloud environments. When it's in the cloud environment, there are some new considerations that you need to be aware of. The first thing to understand is the so-called shared responsibility model. What is so much different in the cloud environment from a traditional data center that we own is that we don't have control of all the infrastructure layers. Based on the service model that we use, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service, we as a customer have access to different infrastructure layers. So for example, in a software as a service environment, there are only small parts of the environment that we can control and we can configure. Whereas in infrastructure as a service, we can control and we are responsible for everything from a VM operating system and above. This is why it's called a shared responsibility. Having data and applications in the cloud does not mean that everything is secure by default. We are always responsible for our part, and cloud vendor is responsible for their part. So continuing from the previous slide, if we talk about data security, different cloud deployments have different storage types associated with it. Infrastructure as a service has volume storage. PaaS has object storage, and SaaS has file and document storage. Each type of storage has different challenges to secure and to protect data that's associated with it. So for example, you might use data encryption for encrypting data at rest, or you might use data loss prevention to apply security on documents or emails. Platform and infrastructure security. There are several areas that we need to cover here. So you have regions, you have data centers, zones, virtualization platform, networks. As a cloud customer, we must ensure that our service is properly designed, taking into consideration different building blocks that we are provided by the cloud provider. All cloud providers have also some form of identity and access management. We need to know who has access and to what resources. And also when we mention business continuity and DR, this can be very different from what we are used to in the on-prem environments. Application security. Your development teams need to understand the specifics of cloud platform and cloud environment to be able to create secure and modern applications. Security operations. Although there is still the same need for patching, local action, audit trail, or ITIL processes such as change management and configuration management, it requires changes in organizational procedures. So if you use infrastructure as a service, you still need to patch VMs and services that are running on it. But if you use platform as a service or software as a service, patching is very limited here and might not even be necessary. So if you also have a need for a security operations center, you maybe already have some CM tools in your own premises. But it is very likely that these traditional CM tools are not going to work in your cloud environment. And then you have legal and risk and compliance issues. Cloud computing presents many risks and challenges because it often spans different regulatory or national borders. As such, it can be subject to many different requirements. Additionally, one of the most important aspects of IT security and compliance is the auditing process. When you use cloud environment, you are not allowed to access the cloud infrastructure as you have if you would be using your on-premises infrastructure. Therefore, you must rely on cloud providers doing these audits themselves and giving access to audit reports that the cloud customer can use for its own auditing purposes. According to the State of Cloud Security report, these are the most common security concerns for organizations using cloud. Using cloud changes the way we think about IT. Some common and well-established processes might no longer work. So for example, data loss is on top of the list. The way we share data in the cloud using publicly available URLs enables anyone in the organization to easily share company data with third parties. This ease of sharing was unheard of until we started to use cloud. This can be the cause of accidentally exposing confidential data. Then there is incident response. When you host and own your own infrastructure, you have easy access to the entire environment and you can quickly contain a cyber attack. In the cloud, you only have partial visibility in the infrastructure, and this might make your current tools and processes less effective. When asked about what are the biggest threats facing public clouds, misconfiguration of the cloud platform was on top of the list. It is the leading cause of cloud data breaches. Organizations don't have complete visibility and control over their infrastructure. And this is emphasized even more if organizations use more than one cloud. Different cloud vendors use different tools to secure data, and administrators can very easily oversee some security control and leave the organization data exposed. So everything we said so far about the challenge of securing cloud environments is true for all clouds. Securing only one cloud is a challenge, but if you are in multi-cloud environment, the risk of data exposure is even greater. We have listed here only some of the challenges that every organization should address when they find themselves using more than one cloud. I will give the word now to my colleague Ilya, who will show you some of the mitigation techniques for these challenges.
Thank you, Dinko, for that insightful part for cloud security reality. And it just goes to show that now more than ever, we really need to pay close attention to all our cloud environments, wherever they are. So my name is Ilya Ranogayets. Hello, everyone. It's awesome to be here. I work mostly with cloud infrastructure and cloud security. And what we have seen is the internet is really the new battleground here, and we will always need to learn new things to keep our guards up. Do I have control? Yes. Thank you. Okay, so we have all heard it before, and we have seen there are many things to look after, but it's worth repeating that if you do not know what assets exist in your cloud environments, you cannot secure them. And therefore, gaining visibility is really one of the top priorities for any organizations. And without having that end-to-end visibility, you will never know if something is properly configured and properly secured. One common way of gaining such visibility is, create spreadsheets in Excel where you can collate data and show inventory of all your cloud-based and cloud store assets. You can organize them and organize them. Pretty much all cloud providers offer an API endpoint where you can conduct inventory checks. You can make queries. For example, like show me all my public IPs, show me all my web services, my VMs, and then you will be able, to put that all together and then, act upon it. And on the next level, we can go and explore something that is called by Gartner, a new discipline called the cloud security posture management, which is basically a single or a group of security products and services that offer compliance with several frameworks out there. It can provide monitoring. It will enable you to make thorough investigations and enable you to make incident response capabilities upon that monitored data. It will give you risk assessments on your current cloud posture. And of course, one of the most important things here is giving you the reporting capabilities across all cloud boundaries. And so how does the CSPM tools help? Well, CSPM tools and services, like I said, can monitor a wide variety of issues within any cloud environment. The intention here is pretty much to create a set of policies and to define the desired state or the desired configurations of the cloud infrastructure, in addition to, monitoring the reality of what is in place and what is actually configured. Using CSPM allows you for capability to view compliances with frameworks such as CIS, such as HIPAA, SOC 2, and many others. And then this in turn strengthens the confidence in your organization's products and cloud data security. So when we look at some of the security, some common security issues that are out there, you have seen Mario provision a VM easily. You can use the cloud console to provision VMs. But what if there are some other things that we need to look after, like if we have cloud storages or we have cloud databases that are not encrypted? We do not know that, maybe we do not care about it, but we need to enable our security teams to help them see that there is actually a cloud storage out there which is not secured, which is maybe misconfigured or open to the public internet, which can lead to very severe security incidents. If we have databases and we have our data in those storage buckets, maybe we need to implement a sound key management solution which we will use to encrypt that data, and that is something that CSPM tool should enable us and should recommend to us. The identity is always a hot topic, and identity is pretty much the new perimeter of any cloud organizations, and securing access to those services and those resources really need to go through privileged accounts, and those accounts should have MFA enabled on them. And this is something where CSPMs will warn us or recommend, hey, you have subscriptions or you have projects out there where you have privileged accounts with no security checks. And of course, if you have weak or poor IAM policies that do not really adhere to the principle of least privilege, the CSPM tool will warn us and give us certain recommendations how we can act upon it. And sorry, one more thing last, but not certainly the least, is if you do not have any logging enabled within your cloud environments. Logging is something that is a must, and from the identity plane to the resource plane and the service plane, everything has to be audited and has to be logged in like one place, where then you can then audit those logs and see, in a case of any incidents that happened, you can see who did what and where, and something that really will help you in the long run. If you do not have those logs, and if you do not do that, then you will certainly have a lot more problems. So when looking for a CSPM solution, and when you will be evaluating them, there are certain things and like certain key features which have to be addressed. It's first, the CSPM tool should be configurable, because no organization is the same, and different organizations have different security policies. And the CSPM tool should also be automatable, so you can remediate easy tasks, like Mario provisioned the VM, but he maybe did some misconfigurations regarding security. The policies would kick in from the CSPN, and then it would apply certain policies that are defined on your organization level. And also custom policies and rules which can be enforced not only on single cloud, but also across multi-cloud environments. So if you have AWS or GCP or Azure, you don't have to have people knowing the cloud environment very, very deep, but the tool will enable them to get to that level, and will warn them and recommend what has to be done and how it should be implemented, depending on the policies that you have defined. And of course, I said this already, but CSPM basically at its core is a monitoring tool for your cloud environments, and reporting is critical. You will have to know what you have deployed. You will have to know how it's performing. You will have to see the security posture of your cloud resources, and then someone who is reading the data, the CISO, the security teams, they will be reading that data, and they will be reasoning over it. So we have seen many times that people provision resources, but they just provision it for to get the job done, and security, well, someone else will take care of it. But if the security teams really do not know what's deployed out there and what the organization has deployed, it will be a very, very hard task for the organization if some incidents, breaches happen in the future. So let's take like a simple example of a web application that is deployed in multiple clouds. And from, you have several categories here. You have like your global load balancers, you have your, web application firewalls, you have your SSL offloads, you have your web servers, which may be, hosted on VMs or can be hosted on PaaS services. Same with the database services. And then each of these categories you have to configure security individually and in its own way. And when you add, other clouds here, it's a lot of work to do. Of course, network traffic is always going to be something that has to be monitored, and you will have to know, where your public endpoints are, how are they secured, do you have any open NSGs or any policies that are not adhering to the policies of the organization, and of course, the identity and access management is something that will be implemented because the administrator, the engineers will have to access those resources for their support and monitoring and configuration. So when you take a look at all of these features, going through each category and then going through each service is going to be a very daunting task, and that's going to be a lot of hard work. And then here you have to know a lot of cloud specific configuration items. But if you have a CSPM tool, which really depends on the cloud native security tools, which will see, okay, you have these services deployed, and from the best practices view, this can be better. And then you put the CSPM on top, and that will ingest all data into that tool, and then it will actually show you the overall security posture of all your cloud environments, or even the on-prem if you choose. So, it's always a question of practical advices and where do I start with this. So first and foremost, you really have to gain visibility and define workloads. You have to go out there and see what's provisioned. You have to talk to the application owners and pretty much do a catalog of all your assets, and then maybe move on to the CSP tool. And always focusing on the password policies and the RBACs is a must. Enabling always the accounts with MFA and auditing all of the authentication is very crucial for enabling and a starting point. We have seen always a lot of attack surfaces in the cloud that are left uncleaned, that are left open, because when it's easy to provision services, those services provisioned for dev and test might stay for a while, or maybe left forgotten for a very, very long while. And that really opens up a lot of attack surfaces for organizations. And that should really be something that you should be thinking of, doing as well. Regarding networking, there will always be public endpoints, which have to be managed, and really pay close attention on what's being opened from your organization and how the inbound and outbound traffic is being configured. And then in the end, when you have all your defined workloads, and when you know where data is being stored, then encrypt where needed. Depending on the situation, you can use the cloud managed keys, or even you can bring your own keys for those encryption methods. So you see, briefly, there's a lot of things that we have to cover in our cloud environments. Single cloud is complex, but when you add multiple cloud to the mix, it's really going to be a tough job. But we have tools, and we have people who can help with this. So after hearing all this, Dinko, do you have any practical examples with the cloud security projects that we did that you could share with the audience, or maybe even share your own concerns regarding cloud security and in the multi-cloud?
Yeah, Leah, thank you for this. I must say that I've been working with the cloud for almost 10 years now. It was not even called cloud yet when I first started investigating cloud. My first contact with the cloud was with Azure, and I must say that I'm more expert in Azure than in other clouds. I have maybe 6 or more years of experience. But for the last couple of years, I have also been started working with AWS, and for the last year, I have also been working a lot with GCP. And one particular problem that I have seen is the sheer of controls that you can configure, softwares and management planes that you need to be aware of. all these clouds are built on the same principles, but the way you manage them, the way you use them are somewhat different. Here in Span, we obviously have experts that cover each particular area and each cloud, and it's easy for me to just walk to the next room and ask a colleague about how to do something in other cloud that he's expert for. But I can definitely imagine that in organizations that are that's using more than one cloud, and and sometimes they are not using more than one cloud by choice, because it just happens. Organizations buy other organizations, and there are different teams in the organization that just purchase some service that runs in some other cloud, and then all of a sudden you have multiple clouds that you need to manage. And I can imagine that it's quite difficult for organizations to have administrators and security experts that know the details of every cloud and of every environment. And so if there is some advice that I can give to the audience here, it would be to choose some tool that with which you can gain visibility of more than one cloud, of multiple clouds, because it's really easy to oversee some security setting that you have not even be aware of. And as you can see, the biggest concern is that you will leave something open and that you will expose your data accidentally.
Yes, quite agree. Yeah, and always the cloud is ever evolving, so you will always have to keep track with the updates and maybe new services. And I remember when the cloud storage in Azure was only public access, and you had the firewall capability, and now you can use the cloud storage, which is a PaaS service, and you can put it in a VNet, so it can have its own internal IP address, so you can have web applications accessing the cloud storage service through internal IP. So you don't have to close ports, open ports, keep track of open IPs. You can just switch that on, maybe do some little configurations in the application, and the cloud storage security issue is handled. You don't have to worry about that anymore, and then you just keep up to date with other services as well.
I completely agree. I would
Yeah.
also like to hear from our audience. Is there anybody here that is currently using more than one cloud? Does someone wants to share experience?
It can be a provisioning a VM with public IP.
Yeah, even if you have two VMs residing in two different clouds, that's also a multi-cloud experience. Well, okay, if no one wants to share experience, I will leave it to Dennis now.